Hi, you're still with me, Azaria Tagaya, on Ringgit Cents Plus. Now, earlier we gave you some insight to the Belanjawanku Expenditure Guide for Individuals and Families, which was recently launched by the EPF and the Social Wellbeing Research Center at Now, almost all the university students we spoke to earlier said that they could not follow the suggested budget. Now, it could be that they still have poor knowledge of personal finance and how to manage their living expenses. Well, this time around, we also spoke to some working adults and retirees to see if they think they can follow the suggested monthly budget. We went to a local market at Taman Tun Dr. Ismail, a mostly middle-income neighborhood, to ask retirees and other working adults if they could live within the recommended budget.
Sekarang semua budak besar semua okey ready lah. Sini menjaga untuk buang masa saja.
Hutang dah tak ada. Arti apa benda kita nak belanja kan? Hanya untuk beras, sayur, ikan saja sikit-sikit makan harian. Kalau 2,000 pun dah cukup.
Anak-anak tolong bantu sikit begitulah. Kita dah pencen, inilah kerja dia. Barulah setahun pencen.
Kalau makanan 850 saja
okey. Kita makan jimat-jimat lah. Nak belanja macam orang makan gaji besar, matilah kita kan. Berhutang pula lagi, buat apa?
2011 kalau RKI ni tak cukup lah. Kurang-kurang 3,000.
Bergantung pada tempat lah sebenarnya. Kalau ikut luar-luar daripada negeri selain daripada Kuala Lumpur mungkin cukup. Tapi kalau dekat Kuala Lumpur sebenarnya tak cukup.
Saya rasa okey, cukup makan sebenarnya kalau ambil kapal belum ada anak 4,000 gaji. Tapi kalau kita duduk dengan family, kita tak payah bayar sewa rumah. Kita bayar macam bil-bil air, internet semua. 4,000 cukup. Ngam-ngam, tak adalah hidup susah. Tapi kita tidak boleh berbelanja lebih. And kalau nak bercuti tu kena extra saving sikit.
The chief author of Belanjawanku, Professor Datuk Dr. Norma Mansur, explained that you shouldn't be dependent on your children to support you in your retirement, as they will have other responsibilities.
So in the past too, when people talk about the children will be your rizki and also in a way your investment, because they will look after you when you are older, yeah. But the reality is, these children, when they grow up, they are also sandwiched between their own children and you as parents. And many of them, we hear these anecdotes or even reports saying that two couples cannot afford to look after their elderly parents anymore, because they too would have the demand of going to work, and also the cost is very high. And if both are working, who's going to look after an ailing parent, for instance? Yeah, so you will need help. So these are all realistic scenarios out there.
For those planning to have children, Belanjawanku serves as a good estimate of how much you should earn before you can afford kids. For a family of 4 with 2 children, they even included tuition fees for religious classes and babysitter fees for the younger child.
For one child, from being married without children, it will increase by 30%. Yeah, from if you are married, you want to have one child, the expenditure will be 30% more. If you are having 2 children, it's 50% more than when you don't have any children. Yeah, so you will have to, if you want to plan to have 2 children, you can look at the breakdown and our expenditure, and that will probably guide you on how you should live when you have 2 children.
We asked Professor Datuk Dr. Norma to break down the categories in the budget for us. Social participation includes social events like Hari Raya and birthday parties. For singles, they can spend 150 ringgit a month, and for a family of 4, it's 250 ringgit. You don't have to spend it all in a month, but you should be able to save up for bigger expenses like giving out duit raya or ang pao. For discretionary expenses besides budgeting for holidays and sports, this is where you set aside money for your parents as well. For singles, it's 130 ringgit, and for a family of 4, it's 390 ringgit. If you want to give your parents more, you will have to cut down on your yearly vacation budget. For annual expenses, singles should spend not more than 90 ringgit, and for a family of 4, it's 400 ringgit. You should be saving this money over 12 months for things that you pay once a year.
For instance, they say, oh, I bought pots and pans, 60 ringgit last month. Then we say, but this month you're not buying pots and pans again, are you? So that we add on to the annual expenses or to the one-off. And then over one whole year, we prorate and we then divide it by 12 in order for us to get a rough estimate every month. How much are you spending on these kind of items?
Still, many elderly Malaysians we met found that they couldn't follow the budget.
Oi, mana nak cukup. Makcik pergi kedai sekali beli untuk belanja harian pun 100 satu hari.
Kalau nak selesa tu kena lebih lah. Tapi kalau nak hidup, setakat makan tu boleh lah ya.
If you go by one person's expenditure and you want to consider that as a national or a sample of a national, it may not be something that people can afford. And yet you don't see people lying on the street or squatting at mosques or churches and all that. That means that generally Malaysians can manage, they may cut on their food, for instance, or on other things. But the budget is supposed to be a guide.
Moving forward, Professor Datuk Dr. Norma says that the budget for Belanjawanku will be updated yearly to take into account inflation. It will also be expanded to single mothers and families with more children. They are also looking into the living cost in other places.
Basically, the principle or the premise behind Belanjawanku is to empower Malaysian household. Yeah? If the Belanjawanku is said to be unrealistic, they don't know where to start. Yeah? But now they know where to start. Maybe in the beginning, one struggles with certain figures, certain items, but later, hopefully, once the discipline is in, then you're able to live, according to your means, rather than trying to get an income to suit your lifestyle.
One elderly gentleman we met at the market gave the best advice for those living beyond their means.
Berkhidmat, belanja ikut pada-pada. Orang kata orang Melayu kata, pakai baju kena saiz dia. Jangan kita ikut pakai baju nak pakai kot. Awak ada gaji 1,000, awak pakai kereta Mercedes. Tak betul kan? Kepada berkhidmat.
Well, we hope the Belanjawan Guide can be useful to you. At the very least, hopefully it can get you thinking about coming up with your own personalized budget that fits your income. Now, make sure you set aside enough for savings and the life goals you have, such as retirement, getting married, or even your children's education fund. Now, if you want to learn more about how to do it, watch the previous stories we've done, and you can find those on our Facebook and YouTube. If you have any questions about personal finance, let us know there as well. Now, after the break, we speak to our partners Ringgit Plus about life insurance. Which should you get, term life insurance or whole life insurance? We'll have the answers for you shortly.